Hey guys, in today's video I wanted to show you how I cheat on my plants. Now I don't have a secret collection at someone's house and I don't have plants that no one knows about. That's not what I consider cheating on plants. What I'm talking about is having a water-hungry plant in the desert. I have a couple of ferns here. I don't know what kind because I got them from a big box store, and that's one of the disadvantages of buying in bulk is they don't always get stuff labeled. So it said fern. That's all it said. One's blue, one is variegated. Now in the desert here, this is one of the plants that I cannot keep alive more than a season. I do like them, so I buy them anytime I see them and they're reasonable enough. I just know not to get too attached because chances are it's not going to end well. So what I like to do, if I can, try it just as it is in the pot first and see if you can manage to find your happy medium with watering. For me, ferns are a little too finicky. I do have to water about 3-4 times a week here in Albuquerque, New Mexico because it is dry, especially in the summer. But with some, what I like to do makes it a little easier, especially if you got a smaller pot like this. This is like, I don't know, maybe a 4-inch pot. So I like to do a wicking system. Now, I don't really care for the pots, water wicking pots, because most of them you can't tell how much water is in there. Yes, some of them have gauges and others have little windows, or you can lift it and see the weight. But another disadvantage of those things are the fact that they are a little pricey. I mean, you're paying the designer or whoever came up with it and who probably holds the patent, and they're trying to make money on everything on top of making them. So, I mean, you do pay up for all that. This is a little bit cheaper of a way. I've done this a few times and it works. Like I said, I don't have very good luck with ferns. I haven't tried this with ferns yet. I've found a plant on sale at one point last year, and I seen that they had a wicking system to keep the entire tray watered, so I thought, how could I do that on a smaller scale? Well, there are a couple things you need to do the way I'm going to show you today. First of all, you need a plant. I like to do this in a plastic pot or the nursery pots just because what I'm going to do is stick it in here. Now you can see that's a little too much water, so I will empty some of that out. Let me see here. What you want to do is make sure, if you stick your pot in, that you don't have the bottom of your pot in water. That's one of the first things you need to do. The reason I like using a vase is because it's a little pretty. I mean, it's not just a standard straight vase. It does have some curvature to it, so it does bring some interest that way. Another way is, since it is clear, I can see the amount of water, and it's not a surprise that it's going dry on me. One disadvantage that I do have to say about doing it this way is you do have to clean the vase a little bit more often because it will develop algae, but it's not going to hurt the plant, so it's fine. Now, to what this video is about and what I'm going to show you how I do things. This one here, we'll start with this one since it's a little smaller, a little easier to manage. Now normally you don't really want to be pulling your plants out of the pots, but we're trying to help it, so we'll do what we have to. You can see there's a little tiny straw in here. This had a version of a wicking system, but it wasn't a very good one. No window. And see here, you can just, if you can get your plant out of the pot, wrap this cord around and stick it down a hole. You can see I have a little bit of the rope hanging out there too. I like to do that because it does make sure that you have it all the way through, and you can always just tuck it in here in the side. Nothing fancy, you can just see the little tiny rope tucked on the side of the pot there. Now, you want to make sure that when you do this, that you're using a natural rope, either cotton or jute, something that will wick the water. If you use a polyester rope or something that's all plastic, it's not going to wick water, so you will be doing this in vain. Now you can see I chose a real pretty little rainbow rope, so that does add another aspect to it. It does have a little bit more decoration and color, you know. Now, these were moist already, so I don't have to wet the top. Sometimes if your plant is dry, you will have to provide a little moisture just to get that wicking motion going. Another way, if you don't have a plant that you can pull out of your pot, or you don't want to, you can just get something that'll fit up in that hole. You gotta make sure that you're not doing too much damage, but you can take your string or rope or whatever you're using. I like to use something about the thickness of yarn, because any thinner than that and it really doesn't do too much, thicker and it's kind of too much water. So you'll have to find what works for you, but this is what works for me. You can see I'm just sticking it in one of the holes in the bottom of the pot. Now this one here is a little more lively. It was bigger. So I'm just gonna proceed to push the rope up as high as I can. Make sure you hold the plant down, because if not, you're gonna dislodge the pot or the plant. Okay, and I'm here at the top. You can see my rope sticking through. So now just pull the dowel back out, or whatever you use to feed it through, and tap it down a little. You can see the rope popped out fine. Now this way you might do a little more damage to the roots, so you will want to be careful. You can always tip the pot and get the plant out, but if you have a soft root ball like this one is, you will have a mess and you'll have a bare root plant and you will do more damage than good. Now, if you don't have the space to have, or you don't like the vases, you could always use a bowl. You're going out of town, say. You could always use, or you have something that needs a lot of humidity. This was in the plant section at a local store, and we bought it because we thought it was for succulents. Apparently the receipt says it's for eating, but we're still going to use it for plants. With this, you could throw some marbles or some gravel or whatever you want that looks pretty and won't suck up the moisture. You want something that's just going to act as a filler in there and not leach anything into the water. That is very important. And then just fill up water up to, or just a little beyond, whatever you have in there, the gravel, the marbles, the glass, whatever. And you could just take your plants, and of course you don't need a rope that long if you're just sitting it in here. You can just sit it on there. And this you might have to change depending on how many plants you have and how much water you have in it a little more frequently. And you don't have the advantage of the glass here, being able to see the plant and the water level. But we'll just throw this other one in here just to show you what it looks like. Now, this is something that I've done, I'd say probably for about a year. It does seem to work. Like I say, the one disadvantage is you do have to do a little bit of maintenance and clean your vessel every once in a while, the container holding the water. But you do have to make sure your plant is something that can take the moisture. Ferns love it. Pothos can handle it. Most philodendron love water, so this would be fine for something like that. And like I say, this is for something that you don't necessarily want to be watering constantly, for something that's water greedy. For something that you can water on a regular schedule with everything else, just leave it. You don't have to do heroics for plants. I did mention earlier that these are something that I can't seem to keep alive. I had a rabbit's foot fern over a year once, and that was, no, it wasn't even rabbit's foot. It was kangaroo paw. Looks similar to these, less leaves, and they had really weird little feet-looking appendages that wrapped the basket. But there again, it was doing fine for the longest time, and just all of a sudden died. Another thing you can try and do if you don't want to go through this, if you have something